Hello everyone and welcome. In case you didn't know, Ironmace did a hour-long podcast yesterday where they discussed some upcoming changes to Dark and Darker. They released some new facts, some things they're working on, and it's a lot to unpack. It's an hour-long episode, so I thought we'd just spend a little time today talking about the highlights as I run a normal goblin caves here for quests. I think I still need goblin ears. I need a bunch of extractions, I need some kills, and so this is a great place to do it. I'm going in solo on a base gear ranger. I think I've got a white spear with me as well. But yeah, lots of interesting information. Let's start off with the fact that Ironmace has been growing like bonanzas. They were originally a team of 18, they're now a team of 50. I think a lot of this has happened in like the last business quarter, so in the last 90 days they've basically increased the size of the company by 150%, and that's a lot of growth to manage. Good luck, everybody over there, Terrence and the Ironmace team. Growing is incredibly painful, but also very rewarding. So, hey, here's a tip. If you ever spawn in the far southwest corner of the Goblin Caves, know that right out here, right outside the first door on the first hallway, someone else can spawn here, and we hear them right now. What do we got? Oh, it's a longsword warrior. I'm going to miss every shot, but the spear is actually a better longsword than the longsword, so he goes down pretty quick. Yeah, so they have grown like crazy, and this is on the back of they released some preliminary sales numbers, and it looks like they've sold 500,000 copies of Dark and Darker in early access, which is really remarkable, particularly because it's never been available on Steam to buy. So they've done this just on the backs of word of mouth and the community. And I know that that number will at least triple the day they go on live on Steam. I know I've got two friends who are holding off buying the game until they can do it through a reputable platform like Steam. So yeah, that's tremendous growth. I think we should all be pumped about not only the number of units they've sold, but the size of their team. They can do a lot more now, and that's going to raise our expectations that were already pretty high. Yeah, so good stuff all the way around there. They also shared the fact that the player population in Dark and Darker is probably the healthiest it's ever been, split between normal and high roller. For the vast majority of the early access, high roller has been, I guess, intimidating to the player base as a whole, and there was a very small percentage of players who were participating in that game mode. And yesterday they said that it's roughly a 50-50 split between normal and high roller, and I think that's fantastic news. I'm a huge fan of high roller. I think it has its purpose. If you're busting out quests, though, I think normals is still the way to go. And I think the where they've left normals is really, really healthy for the new player experience. The on-ramp into the game proper. It's a very low-cost way of getting involved. Very limited consequences. Very limited risk versus reward, where you can just take as much time as you need to learn. And that's great. So some class stuff they talked about yesterday. They're still working on druids. They're going to have a bear form. Great. I need to see more detail before I get excited about anything. Warlocks are getting a different form. They're getting a demon form that is apparently capable of eating enemy buffs off of them, which sounds kind of interesting. I think Warlock still needs a lot of finishing. Still feels very underwhelming. And then Wizards. Apparently Wizard right now is overbooked with spells and abilities, and that the Sorcerer class, which is going to be released at some point in the future, shares a lot of overlap with the Wizard that we know today, which means that Wizards will be losing some of the spells and abilities. At least that's how I interpreted it. That they'll be losing some of those abilities, for the Sorcerer to pick them up, which will be an interesting change. In terms of balance, my personal opinion is that we're probably the best we've been in a very, very long time for the longest period of time. They said that they've made a mistake by reintroducing kind of the landmine rogue played style, and I tend to agree with that. There's really no counterplay to it, and they're not really happy with the damage that rogues and rangers are putting out, and that's not particularly surprising. With regard to other balance stuff, they said they feel like Lich and Ghost King are perfectly fine from a balance perspective. They're not satisfied with where Skeletal Warlord is. And that makes a lot of sense to me, too, because that fight is garbage. It's like 100% skip for me and my amigos. But that's really all they had to say about balance. Not a lot. They did talk about changes to maps. And I know there's a lot of dissatisfaction right now in the community and being told where you can play at what time in the map rotation. They did kind of lament that. They said that we did the best we could given the amount of time we had to work on it. We wanted to give you guys something to do, content-wise, a shake-up going into the holiday season. And so they kind of rushed to get that out. They're still reevaluating it. And so we should look to see some changes coming soon. But one of those changes is they're going to be introducing 3 layers of dungeons, which means that, like, you can go down once right now in the crypts. You'll be able to go down to other levels 2 times on at least one of the maps. So we'll stay tuned for more on that. They're working on the ice biome changes that they're working on. What do we have here? No, it's a ranger. Oops. Yeah, so they're working on 3 new maps that are essentially the Ice Caves, the Ice Abyss, and the Ice Village. They'll be available for testing soon-ish. I don't know what soonish means. But those zones will not have a circle. They will not have a storm mechanic, so there will be no forcing function to move players to the center of the map. There's definitely a bard, there's definitely a warlock. Something else is nearby as well. I know that ranger was out there a second ago. Oh, there he is. Oh, he didn't see me. Hey, buddy. You want to be friends? Yeah, no. I don't... Whoa. Barbarian? Here, have that. Oh, it's a fighter. It was a fighter. Okay, so what were we talking about? Map changes. The Goblin Caves is getting expanded. They're going to move that to a 5x5 tile set, which is significantly bigger than it is now. And that tile set will include both the Cyclops and the Troll bosses on the map, so you'll have your choice about which one to go and do. I think expanding that makes a lot of sense if you're going to allow 3 people per, squad size of 3 to get in on that action. Hello, Warlock. Okay. But yeah, I think adding some res shrines onto the map would be a good idea. Making it a little bigger is a great idea, and then having 2 bosses that people can go and do will reduce the kind of the Goblin Caves. When it's the 3s option, feels a little bit like deathmatch. Like you're pushed on top of each other so fast. I was really disappointed to hear that Terrence and SDF did not address in any way, meaningful way, the changes that they implemented just before the holidays with regard to ping lock. So cheating is my #1 concern for this game. I'm really concerned that it could ruin it if they don't stay on top of it. And they're just not talking about it enough right now. What has the impact of ping lock been? We have no idea. I know when I've tested it from the East Coast. See a bard. From the East Coast, I've been able to queue anywhere I want. So I don't know if it's doing anything. Regardless, that's the full rundown. That's what they covered in an hour yesterday. I covered it in 8 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. It helps me a ton, and we'll see you in the next one.